Arterial because my work life is not my home.
Yeah, exactly. Did you get caught in that accident that I did on State Road 54? There was an accident right by the turnpike in 54 on Pleasant.
Oh gosh.
No. Somebody driving the wrong way or something?
No, I don't know. It was just right at
Was it on
State
50?
Road 54.
Oh.
And so, I don't know. It was so crazy. I just tried to get people cutting, leaving in and
Was
out.
it
so I didn't
at
go
the
good luck.
entrance ramp going eastbound? Because that's all messed up.
It was the westbound, the lane I was coming over.
Oh,
was
it's westbound?
Yeah,
Oh.
it was,
Okay.
there was a young girl laying on the ground.
Oh, God. Oh, man.
It's like, oh.
That's bad. Don't want to see that.
That's what they want to see on your way to the MPO TAC meeting.
It's like Hawaii's hiring bus drivers. I want to go work for Honolulu.
I see the, I'll go there.
They have to import the Oreos, you know.
Testing.
Oreos? That's not a problem. I can get Oreo smuggling. It's a big thing here.
I'm ready. Are you ready, ma'am? Okay, well, let's get started. We got a big agenda today. Okay, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, everybody. This is Monday, May 10th, 2021, MPO Technical Advisory Committee, CMP. We're going to go ahead and get started with our agenda. Do we have a number of people online this morning? I don't know, maybe we could just find out who's online so we know who we're meeting with today. If there's anybody online, you want to introduce yourself? Or is there like 20 of them?
You have panelists and attendees. The attendees cannot unmute unless I move them over. But your
Okay.
panelists
Okay.
are, and I apologize for the name, Chaya Yang, Patty Christ, Scott Ferry, and Tina, right over there in the.
Okay, well, that's fine.
And those are all county staff.
Right.
Okay, moving on. I don't know if we have anyone present or online regarding public input this morning. Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on down to the approval of the meeting minutes. Those are the minutes of March 8, 2021. Any comments?
I have one.
Okay.
And I think you guys are just testing to see if I read all of the minutes. So it's just a test. But I think I passed the test because on page 2 in paragraph E, my name was misspelled.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
It was spelled right everywhere else, so that's why I thought it might be a test.
Bulldog.
Yeah.
Thank you, Debbie.
Yeah. Just had to call
It
that.
was the,
Other than that change, I move to approve.
I'll second it.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes of March 8, 2021. I guess we'll go down the line here since we're going virtually, starting with you, Melanie.
Aye.
Kurt Scheibel, aye.
Todd Vandenberg, aye.
Deborah Bolduc, aye.
Cynthia Spido, aye.
Chris Dunant is aye.
Thank you. Do we have a report on the MPO board action from April 8th's meeting?
I do. I have a board overview. On 2/11/21, the MPO board approved the following items: the Florida Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged, Transportation Coordination. The MPO gave its recommendation for the Go Pasco. Now you'll learn about it later, but PCPT to be the CTC provider. The next one was the Metropolitan Planning Organization. It did a minor update to the public participation plan, and they provided Casey Kersey from AECOM provided an overview that was approved. We had also a scope from Tyndale Oliver for traffic count methodology in the amount of $29,076.68 that was approved. Additionally, we had the FDOT tip-step amendment for the US 98 301 corridor approved for $6,161,504. And then we also reviewed the annual joint certification from FDOT, and we reviewed its findings. Thank you.
One thing I need to correct for the record is the Go Pasco has not been sent to the board yet. They'll be on the next board meeting in June.
Thank you, Kurt. Are there any other comments or questions by the board or anybody online? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to the action items. A is the Florida Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged, Community Transportation Coordinator, MPO resolution for recommendation of CTC designation.
That would be me again. I just reviewed that. As I said, the board approved the the Florida Commission for Transportation managed every 5 years. The planning agency, the MPO, provides a recommendation to the FCTD. We recommended that the PCPT continue to be our community transportation coordinator. The board approved, and Kurt was there in attendance to provide any questions to the board, and he's here now if you'd like to have any questions answered.
Are there any comments or input from Kurt or anyone concerning this item and how it's been working and how we're proposing to move forward? All good?
We're doing good.
Okay. Okay, well, this is a board item, so I ask for a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Kurt.
Melanie Romagnoli, second.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second. Melanie, we'll start with you.
Melanie, aye.
Kurt Scheibel, aye.
Todd Vandenberg, aye.
Deborah Bolduc, aye.
Cynthia Spidel, aye.
Christina Antis, aye.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 5B is a minor update to the public participation plan.
Casey Kersey from AECom will provide a presentation on the minor update to the public participation plan.
Welcome, Casey.
Good afternoon, everyone. Casey Kersey with AECom. You may have heard on some of other board presentations or committee presentations, there's a minor update to the public participation plan. Got it? I thought you were just making my voice lower. It's out for public comment right now. It went out April 23rd and will be out for June 10th. It really rolls in all of the virtual hybrid procedures that were not listed in the public participation plan. And this shows, we did a little summary guide also on how to use the virtual hybrid and what committee meetings you can view on, the MPO board meetings you can view on all the different social media platforms, but our committee advisory meetings are only on YouTube. But it explains how to find the public comment forms within the MPO's website. And I wanted to make note, the MPO's website is really looking great. They've been doing a lot of work on that and making it very intuitive to get through. So this little guide goes in the actual document. We're waiting to see if we've gotten any comments, and I don't think we've gotten any since. Okay, so we have no public comment, but quite honestly, it's really just incorporating the virtual hybrid world, which everyone's pretty much used to now after a year. But the other part we wanted to say is that the PPP is now being updated to show that the MPO will kick off an active transportation after July. And that was not a product that was included in the original PPP. So that at least gets that included before we really start some serious work on it. Everything up till now is just background research for that. So we hope to adopt the minor update with the MPO board meeting in June. And just wanted to let you know it was out there. But check out the MPO's website. It's looking really good these days.
Thank you, Casey. So
Is there a consultant that's working with MPO on that, or is it just county staff?
For the actual website,
Yeah.
county staff, Kayla, Tania, who else? I'm not sure who else works on it.
Yeah, I really like that.
Cassie.
It looks really good. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it looks good.
So this was the presentation that we had done for some other boards, but telling, what it is, why is it necessary, for a public participation plan. It is a federally required document, and it requires a 45-day comment. It's the longest comment period of anything that the MPO does. And just showing how, we're incorporating all the new social media aspects of engagement. The one thing we wanted to make sure people understood, is that nothing goes away. So as we go forward, and if we're going to hold in-person engagement, whatever we were doing before will remain as options for any kind of meeting. But this allows the county to let the public know we are going to consider probably this virtual hybrid world going forward when it's appropriate for that. So any comments on that plan, or if you would let the MPO know if you go through and see anything, let me know. The MPO will probably do a major update within the next year in tandem with the LRTP kicking off. So it'll be a whole new public participation plan where we will do a review of our effectiveness the last 3 years. We'll look at all of our goals and objectives, our measures, performance, and then we'll have a chance to really kind of talk about where the world is in a year for
I do have
public
one question for you,
participation.
Casey. How does this comply with Governor DeSantos's recent executive orders?
Well, if we're going, so Kurt, really what we've done is just added in what happened last year. So as he goes forward, and if he is saying maybe mask or optional, however he sets it up, we don't get into the mask stuff. We just get into the fact that if the governor says you need to hold a completely virtual or hybrid virtual situation, we can pivot to that. So we've set it up to whatever's coming from the legislative session or from the governor or whatever's happening, it's represented in your public participation plan as a tool that the MPO can use for engagement.
Well, the only reason I asked is because I thought he did submit something like 2 weeks ago or last week.
But
I'm
that's
just-
kind of the beauty, that the PPP should represent all possible situations. So whatever he does, if he removes,
You answered my question.
yeah, so.
Just make sure it covers all possible.
Yeah, we didn't take
Okay.
anything away from what we were doing before. We added the virtual and the hybrid virtual options on there.
Well, thank you, Casey and Tania and the others working on that website. Yeah, it looks very user-friendly.
Nice,
Very
and I think
impressive.
we
Yeah.
need an action to, if you recommend, given that this would have done a little bit differently in the timing, you would have recommended that the MPO board put this out for public comment. So we still need an action for a vote that you're okay that it's out there for public comment.
Okay, unless there's any other further comment or input, call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. Melanie?
Melanie, aye.
Kurt Schauble, aye.
Todd Vandenberg, aye.
Deborah Bolduc, aye.
Cynthia Spidel, aye.
Christie Hunter's aye.
Thank you. Items approved. We also have item 5C, Tyndale Oliver, some traffic counts.
Yes. The MPO has requested that Tyndale Oliver provide a task to create a traffic count methodology in order to support and memorialize the traffic count methodology for the Pasco County MPO. As you know, when COVID-19 came last year, unfortunately, we could not conduct the traffic counts as we would like to. So this year, when we started the process, we realized that we wanted to find and have a memorialized process and have it laid out. So as Pasco has grown, we have more growth, and we wanted to reach out to Tyndale and Oliver and have them put that into a process for us. So they did, and we had the scope approved at the board on 4/8/21 of this year.
And does the process identify how they'll go about selecting roadway segments to do traffic counts on, or?
Yes, it goes into depth. If you go into the scope, they do go into depth on how they're going to select the roadway, and then we'll have it on a rotation and we'll provide it to the county so then they can do the actual traffic counts for us. But Carl will probably have more to share.
So I did have a couple questions on the traffic counts. Are you going to tie it into the LRTP too, those major roads that are in the LRTP? And I guess I've got a few questions. And then does this methodology also include actual traffic counts? Or is it just putting together the process to revisit how they were being done? It's just looking at the process? Okay. Well, I've
Hi,
got
Carl
more.
McKiska, Pasco County MPO staff. So I'll take the second question first, if I may. And this is to establish a methodology of where we will count, given the rapid growth that's been experienced in the county. And then the frequency of how frequently particular sites should be counted. Obviously, your higher functioning roadways should be counted on an annualized basis. Your lower functioning roadways maybe on an every 2 or 3 year basis or every 4-year basis. Going to your first question in relation to the LRTP, I'm not quite, I don't quite understand or follow the question. Could you elaborate a little bit for
Well,
me,
if
please?
you're looking at, are you going to look at the types, the roadways that you're going to be doing the counts for? Because I thought there was a reference in here to historical counts, like locations that you may have looked at before, and now you also have to consider new roadways in addition to ones that you may have looked at before. But I see a lot of value in this, and I say this because we're looking at doing a lot more operational improvements at the intersections to address the deficit that you may see in capacity along the main line. So I don't know if there's an opportunity in here to also look at intersections as well for some of these major roadways, because an intersection improvement may be the direction that we have to take because of funding, but it can improve the operation of the roadway. So maybe as part of this methodology, there's some consideration given to intersections as well as the roads. And then I also was wondering about the roads in the LRTP, because that's going to be really important in terms of the capital plan, because I look at the significant roadways and the major roadways and what we need to be funding. And then I'm always asked, well, can you get by with less, and can you look at an intersection? So I guess comprehensively looking at this.
So the plan of this is to look comprehensively at the network. Obviously, with the LRTP, we have an existing network, and then we plan a future network that is not yet built. So that's where I had a little confusion on the question. Pardon me for that. But yes, looking at the roadways, what we have, intersections, certainly when we develop that methodology, we'll be working closely with county staff, MPO staff. And we would be able to have those opportunities to look at approaching legs of each intersection. They're just counts, whereas I do think with an intersection, time of day may be something that is perhaps a bit more desirable, because that helps you measure your throughput per hour. That may require a special specification, and of course, different counting equipment, although I think most counting equipment can easily handle that sort of task.
And Debbie, if you go back to the workshop we had with Tyndale and Oliver when they reviewed the LRTP, the SIP, and we did that, and we have, Wally went over how we do the long-range transportation plan. We also reviewed that we have the technical review team when we come up on the LRTP, and that intersection improvements can be brought into that, that arena once we get to the LRTP step next year. And
it's
so
gonna
we
be-
can build on that, because the LRTP, and we work with FDOT, and we start the VISA modeling, and then we're gonna start with the intersection safety improvements, if that's the route that Pasco MPO wants to go when we're looking at the safety. So I think that was where the intersection updating was gonna come in. And Tina, I think we've talked about that too, was kind of looking at that when we started the LRTP process, because that's where we would want to put those, kind of hone in and guide our LRTP in that kind of direction.
Now, does this become part of something else when you do this methodology? Is it part of something else, or is it a standalone procedure that you have?
The council will obviously be used into other products that are produced along the way. But for this purpose or this contract, it is a standalone effort. It is not part of a larger task that we have with Tyndale Oliver.
Okay.
So to
And
piggyback,
you'll involve Venkat then?
Oh, of course, he
Yeah,
definitely, of
he is the
course,
guy.
yeah, of course.
He is it.
I mean, Tina's definitely going to benefit from the active transportation plan Vision 02. She'll definitely take some of that data with, review it and, use it.
just to piggyback on Debbie's question, the municipalities also use these traffic counts as part of the our review of larger projects that are coming in. And I know that Dade City in particular, I know Zephyr Hills, we are experiencing massive pressure for traffic methodology, and you've seen an increase in your long-range staff and your current staff that are doing transportation impact analysis on our behalf on county maintained and operated roadways. It would be helpful if we could possibly maybe do a joint workshop with our council and commissioners over these. My commission in particular still doesn't quite have a grasp. I've tried to explain it in 9 ways to 1, but oftentimes having a consultant come out and do that little bit of a presentation might be helpful as we progress down the participation side of this.
Yeah,
Happy to do so.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Melanie. We're kind of in the same scenario in Zephyr Hills. Tremendous growth. 56, of course, coming our way, and so absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, thank you, Tania and Carl, for your input. Is there any other comments, questions by anyone on the dais or anybody online for this matter? Hearing none, we'll call for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Sorry.
May have been Debbie. All right, thank you, Melanie.
Melanie, I.
Chris Scheibel, aye.
Todd Vandenberg, aye.
Deborah Bolduc, aye.
Cynthia Spidel, aye.
Christine Huntus, aye.
Moving on to item 5D. This is the DOT Transportation Improvement Program, where we have an amendment with 3 project segments.
all right. FDOT asked the MPO to conduct a tip-step amendment on 3 segments on the US 301-98 corridor. The first segment is from US 98, 301 South to US 301 North, and the second segment is from US 98 from Polk County line to Lakeland Highway, and the third segment is from US 301 south of 98 to Hernando County Line Road. The TIP amendments will be adding preliminary design and funding development concepts in conjunction with PD&Es. And we did have a parcel that was for 256 4233. So that was the first segment. That parcel, which is from US 98 from US 301 South to US 301 North, that seller has identified that they're willing to sell that parcel for partially the PD&E phase. So we would like to, the MPO has requested the tip-step amendment. It was approved at the last board meeting for $6,161,504. Now we have it placed into our TIP.
I know this is an important project, but is there a little background you can provide on the reason this is getting bumped up? Is it just because of, I know Polk County's improving 98 to 4 lanes, we hear. Is it in conjunction with that?
Actually, in the next, Jensen Hackett and one of his FDOT staff members, they're on the line and they're going to do a presentation after this.
Okay,
So
that's fine.
when we go into the TIP amendment, the LRT TIP amendment, he'll be able to present, and then they'll both be on the line.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, I was just curious as to when additional funds become available, how you choose which one it's going to go to, or why it was specifically this one came as a top priority. That I was just curious.
That's what I was thinking too.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Call for a motion.
Well, I'm
All
sorry.
right, Debbie?
So, where is the 6 million coming from? Is it state funds? What's the funding source?
These are funds that were not previously included in the Pasco County spending of our TIP. They're coming from other sources, you would say, whether it's another district that was unable to spend those funds,
Okay.
if there were additional revenues, because the TIP is based on estimates of revenues anticipated for the coming year. I do know, just reading legislatively, that the state government in general is finding that revenues are far exceeding estimates that they had earlier in the year. So it could be any number of factors. When we get to August, there should be August redistribution. There should be some money coming in, and that's new federal funds that we get from other states. So there's a whole host of factors that can affect funding.
So none of our projects are being affected by
no.
this?
They have.
Okay.
I can
FDOT.
confirm that this is above
Jensen
and
from
beyond.
DOT.
Hey, Jensen, good morning.
Hey,
Good afternoon.
I'm just going to say that this is coming from part of a rural arterial widening program. It actually addresses safety as well as freight movement. And when I get in the presentation coming up in just a second for the LRTP amendment, I'll address some of that for you guys.
Thank you very much, Jensen.
But yeah, this is all
Jensen.
new money. It's not reallocated money from what's already being expended in the current TIP or any project in the LRTP.
Thank you.
My only concern, and I'll bring it up as a question other, is that we're focusing on 301. While it is a vital freight corridor, the passenger aspects of it are minimal compared to what we can do for 52 and the 56 and some of the other projects out there. I know Commissioner mentioned something last meeting, and I don't know if that answer was getting back to her, but I do have concerns that this was bumped up when the money was taken away from us for the 54 and pushed 52 many years down the road. So there is I do have some concerns, I think, that other people might have also.
Thank you. If there's no more comments, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Melanie, second.
Till we hear the DOT presentation?
Um,
So that we understand everything.
oh,
and then we
that's a
go
good
back and-
question. I asked that. Oh, but there's a,
I was just wondering if we should hear the DOT presentation first so we get the context of everything and then come back and vote on the.
I guess we could table this temporarily until we hear the presentation. If we want to just step out of the agenda and have DOT make their presentation.
Okay, Jensen, would you like to initiate your presentation and then we'll come back and do the voting?
Yeah, that's actually perfectly fine. You guys should have a PowerPoint that'll be coming up in just a moment. Just for the record, Jensen Hackett with the Department of Transportation. I also have on the line Ashley Hensel, who will be participating in this presentation. She is project manager for one of these segments that you'll be hearing about in just a moment. And then I also have another consultant that we have on board, Jeff Novotny, who can answer any questions additional to these presentations. So again, Jensen Hackett with the Department of Transportation, and I will be going over the LRTP amendment for the US 98-301 corridor and for the Product Development and Environment Studies, the PD&E studies along with that. And so this is the project corridor as a whole. There are three segments that we are going to be talking about today. The first segment is shown in purple. That's the northern segment, which is project ID 447536-1. This is US 01 from just south of US 98 to State Road 50 and Cortez Boulevard in Hernando County. The second segment is the blue segment, which is the US 98 bypass around the city of Dade City. This is project ID 256423-3. And then we have the green segment, which is US 98 from the Polk County line to US 301, US 98. This also includes the current realignment study of the intersection of Clinton Avenue and US 98 just south of Dade City, and just north of the city of Zephyr Hills. There actually is a fourth segment as part of this. It's the gray segment. That is actually 436673-1. This is from the Polk and Pasco County line down toward Lakeland. This, however, is actually in District 1. So District 1 is the one that is doing this PD&E study. So we will only be focusing on the three segments, the purple, the blue, and the green today in this presentation. Next slide. And so these are going to be PD&Es that are going to be looking at addressing safety concerns on the corridor as well as freight concerns for a freight connection between I-4 and I-75 following that US 98 and US State Road 50 corridor in Hernando County. The first one that I'll touch on is going to be the one that I discussed in green. This is the segment of US 98 from the Polk County line and County Road 54 to US 301, US 98. So this would be a widening from 2 lanes, undivided as it is currently, to 4 divided. The design segments are actually broken into 2 different sections. One of those is the piece from the county line up to Old Lakeland Highway. There's just about 160 feet of existing right-of-way here. There is no right-of-way anticipated for this section, as we have plenty of enough room for the 4-lane divided section in this area. The second segment is going from US 98 at Old Lakeland Highway up to US 301 and the Clinton Avenue intersection with 301. This is all part of that evaluation that we are undergoing now to realign that intersection. So that is why it is a new alignment. The proposed right-of-way in this section is just about 160 to 180 feet as well. So any right-of-way would come out of the actual realignment and not out of the actual roadway construction. There are a few potential right-of-way impacts for floodplain compensation, as well as some other stormwater management facilities, i.e. retention ponds. And we are looking to have a hybrid public hearing with this section sometime around the end of 2021. So you'll be hearing from us as we go into that. It'll probably be sometime in the wintertime of 2021. Next slide. So we actually have a project manager on this. His name is Craig Fox. You may have heard of him from the department. There is his contact information there. I know that this packet is also in your agenda packet, so you have that contact information as well. But you can also visit our website for this study. It is at that link there. It's the US 98 County Road 54 to US 301 segment. Next slide. The second project that I'll be focusing on is the Dade City Bypass. This is the route directly around to the east of Dade City. Currently, a design is underway. We've just kind of started that process of widening this from the 2 undivided to the 4-lane divided section. There was a PD&E actually approved way back in April of 2002, and this was to widen this segment to the 4 lanes divided through the city of Dade City. Right now, because of that PD&E being just about 20 years old now, we are going through a reevaluation process of that PD&E, and that is ongoing right now. Existing right-of-way does vary throughout this corridor. It ranges anywhere from 60 to about 100 feet. So this, along with our context classification, obviously we would not be doing a large median, grass median. It would be more context sensitive to the city of Dade City. Additional right-of-way will be required for some roadway and stormwater management facilities, such as the retention ponds that I mentioned before. And we're also looking at the potential for roundabouts as part of this project at certain intersections in Dade City. I did get a question from the CAC last week about the roundabouts, and these would be obviously the wider roundabouts with the mountable curbs for truck traffic. However, before that process begins the design for those roundabouts, we would actually go through what we call an intersection control evaluation or an ICE process to determine if roundabouts would be the best option along this corridor for truck traffic to move through Dade City. So we have the whole gamut there. We could do a roundabout or we could do a classic intersection with signalized stop. So we also have a project manager on this. His name is Kevin Lee. Contact information is there, and you can also visit the website to see the original PD&E, which is on our District 7 Studies website. We'll also have the reevaluation process documents up there once that reevaluation process does get finalized here in the next short while. And next slide. And at this point, I'm actually going to turn the presentation over to Ashley Hensel. She is actually the project manager for this project, which is the project that extends up into Hernando County. So Ashley, you can take it away.
Thanks, Jensen. Good afternoon, everyone. Like Jensen mentioned, my name is Ashley Hensel. I'm the DOT project manager on this section, and I also have Jeff Novotny on the call. He's the consultant PM for this section. This is the section for the proposed improvements along US 301 from south of US 98 to State Road 50 in both Pasco and Hernando counties. This project is a total distance of about 4 miles. The existing right-of-way varies throughout the corridor with a minimum width of 100 feet. We will need additional right-of-way for the mainline roadway improvements, as well as stormwater management facilities or pond sites, and also floodplain compensation sites. We will be hosting a public hearing, a hybrid public hearing with both an opportunity to attend in person or virtually, and that will be coming up on June 24th, where we'll be presenting the preferred alternative. Next slide, please. So as we mentioned, US 301 is a main north-south arterial highway. It connects a number of regionally significant corridors, including State Road 50 and US 98. The purpose of this project is to widen US 301 from a 2-lane undivided facility to a multi-lane divided facility to address existing safety issues and accommodate future traffic growth. This segment has a high crash rate that ranges from 2 to 5 times the statewide average for similar facilities. US 301 is an important freight route that spans from Sarasota, Florida, all the way to Delaware. This serves as an alternate route to I-75 and has the potential to safely accommodate higher truck volumes. The proposed improvements will include construction of stormwater management facilities and floodplain compensation sites, various intersection improvements, and multimodal facilities, including pedestrian, bicycle, and transit accommodation. Next slide, please. This is a typical section of the existing roadway. It is a 2-lane roadway with 4-foot paved shoulders in the Pasco County section and 6-foot paved shoulders in the Hernando County section. The existing right-of-way along the corridor varies from a minimum of 100 feet to around 170 feet. Just north of the Pasco County line, there is an existing bridge carrying US 301 over the Withlacoochee River with 2 12-foot lanes and 10-foot paved shoulders. There are no sidewalks, multi-use trails, bike lanes, or other multimodal facilities within the project limits, with the exception of 6-foot sidewalks on both sides of US 301 south of Coomer Road. Next slide, please. The proposed typical section will include 4 lanes, 2 in each direction, separated by a 40-foot median. A 10-foot trail will be provided on the east side. To accommodate this new typical section, widening will take place on the east side, as shown in the top typical section, from US 98 to Arena Road and from south of Gardenia Way to State Road 50. And widening will take place on the west side between Arena Road and south of Gardenia Way. And we'll have open swales will be accommodated along the corridor. Next slide, please. A new bridge will be constructed on the west side of the existing bridge, and it will carry southbound traffic. A bridge for the 10-foot pedestrian trail will be constructed on the east side of the existing northbound bridge. Next slide, please. Stormwater management sites or pond sites and floodplain compensation sites were evaluated along the corridor through the environmental look-around process. The ELA process evaluated converting land use types to improve water quality in the basins along the corridor. This will require 5 offsite ponds and 4 offsite floodplain compensation sites. We'll also enlarge an existing FDOT pond near the State Road 50 intersection. These improvements will require approximately 91 acres of right-of-way to accommodate the proposed ponds and floodplain compensation sites. Next slide, please. We are currently evaluating the environmental effects along the corridor, including natural resources such as wetland and threatened and endangered species, cultural resources, archaeological and historic sites, social and economic resources, including impacts to the community, and physical resources for noise and contamination impacts. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, this project will require additional right-of-way. We anticipate 36 full or partial right-of-way acquisitions will be needed, including 1 residential relocation and 2 business relocations. Our right-of-way office is available for information related to right-of-way impacts or relocations, and they will also be available at the public hearing. Next slide, please. So where are we in the process? We are currently finalizing our environmental documents in preparation for our public hearing, which is taking place on June 24th. Next slide. The public hearing will be held both virtually and in person. Attendees will have the option to attend virtually through a GoToMeeting online or to attend in person at the Ridge Manor Community Center. Both formats will begin at 5:30 with an open house where attendees can view materials and ask questions to FDOT staff, and a formal portion will begin at 6:30. Those wishing to attend virtually will be required to register on the website ahead of time. We'll be sending out newsletters as well as advertisements in the newspaper, letting the community know about the hearing and the registration requirements. Next slide, please. For any questions related to this segment, please visit our project website, which you'll see the website address here, or feel free to contact me, Ashley Hensel, as the project manager. And I'm going to hand it back to Jensen to wrap up and take any questions we have.
All right, thanks, Ashley.
Thank you, Ash.
And so what we're doing here is for the TIP amendment portion, this is actually adding PE funds, so design funds for the 3 segments. For the Dade City bypass portion, it's actually adding just a little bit of right-of-way for that willing seller that was along that corridor there. And then for the LRTP portion of this amendment, what we are doing is we are actually asking to amend these 3 projects into the current MPO LRTP. So to clarify those 2 actions, 2 separate actions, doing 2 separate things here, one for the TIP and one for the LRTP.
2 questions. So we're funding a project that's not even on the LRTP, that we're adding it to there, as opposed to something that's got a higher priority?
So we are adding the project to both the LRTP and the TIP.
Okay. Second question is Jensen, she mentioned transit projects that were going to be enhanced. Which ones? That's part of her presentation. She said, and transit projects will be enhanced. I'm just curious which ones.
Jeff, can you chime in with some of the transit accommodations? We'll be including transit accommodations in our US 301 project, but not separate transit projects. And maybe Jeff can clarify some of those transit accommodations.
Sure. PCPT Route 30 follows up from Dade City and makes basically a U-turn within the area. It comes up 301, makes a little jaunt off to Bower Road, turns on to Trilby, and kind of then heads south back again on US 98. There's a bus stop within the project limits that will accommodate and provide connection to sidewalks and things like that, and a few other bus stops that are just outside the range, but provide accommodations for that. There are no plans for any future transit through PCPT or up in Hernando County either. However, the typical section will allow connections if any of those are added in the future. And for the bus stop that is on the route just south of Moss-Town Road, we'll coordinate with PCPT and see if they have any enhanced bus stop features that they were interested in doing at some point that we can then accommodate within the project as well.
Yeah. Hi, Kurt. I'm the director of PCPT. I'm looking at 301. We actually follow 301 all the way from Zephyr Hills all the way up and around and head up to Trilby and back down. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of changes along that route that we're going to need to coordinate. So I was just curious of what you guys had already planned, and I'll be willing to talk to you anytime. But I was just curious more than anything. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, and I'll just add to what Kurt had mentioned. I guess it's confirmed that no projects that we have at the county level here are going to be impacted by this. Yet at the same time, you kind of ask yourself, here we have 301 project going through Zephyr Hills that's been in the works for a couple decades now. And some of that we led to as we made some amendments and changes, yet we're having difficulty finding funding to move forward with the process. Yet here now we have a project that is moving forward, not on the LRTP, but I think, I know the 301 project through Zephyr Hills is the next highest priority after 52 is done. So again, I'm just concerned that our project doesn't get moved further down, which I'm anticipating it won't, but just for the comments.
So I had a couple of, comments, and I'm glad that all the project managers' information is listed here with each of these segments. And on the top, the segment US 301 from south of 98 to State Road 54 Cortez Boulevard. Now, the county is in the process of designing the Withlacoochee State Trail connections, and it goes to the trailhead up in Trilby. So I'm not sure if this project is going to impact that at all. So I'm just going to put it out there and have Sam Bennick, who's the PM for this project, circle back with the PM from DOT. But that's kind of something that I want you guys to talk about. And we also had a conversation about enhancing the trailhead for the Withlacoochee State Trail. Now, I don't know if that's going to have any impact. If you're looking outside of that corridor for your stormwater facilities, I'm not really sure, but I think having that coordination with Sam, and I'm not sure if he's reached out to the state yet to talk to somebody that manages that trailhead, but it's conversations that we're having, and we haven't awarded the design contract yet for that segment of the trail, but it'd be good for you guys to talk. And then we also have improvements going on right now along Cummer Road. It's part of the Withlacoochee Industrial Park, and it's actually a two-phase project. And the first phase does not impact right-of-way needs at all, but the second phase does affect a state road. It's State Road 575. And I'm trying to work and be creative on how we can fund that second phase, just so that you know. If we can use some CDBG money to do the PD&E and some conceptual design, we'd like to work with DOT on funding that construction of the realignment, because it's going to be needed for the Withlacoochee Industrial Park when they start moving the trucks, because there's a lot of freight that's going to be using that facility. So I know it's not on 301, but it's in the area. And I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. So I can have the project manager who's involved in those improvements. Also, I'll give him your information so that you guys can talk. So I just want to flag those two things so that you're aware that there's something going on the west side of 301 and there's something happening on the east side of 301. So I want that to be in your wheelhouse so that we don't overlook things and we don't find ourselves competing for the same needs for stormwater for either project. And then on the segment, the US 98 bypass. Now, I can't tell from this map, and I didn't pull it up, so I don't know if Morningside Drive is affected at all, because that ties into 98. But you mentioned roundabouts and some other solutions, and we're in the process of doing the route study for Morningside Drive to that is going to connect into 98. So I also am going to give your information to the PM for that one. We haven't started design yet, but we will be later this year. So that's a joint project with the city. So I'm not sure if Morningside is affected, but if it is, we kind of need to coordinate on how that connection is made.
Yeah, Debbie, Morningside is about a half mile south of those limits, so it's not affecting the Morningside.
It's not affected at all?
Nope, not at all.
Okay. Okay, good.
The old cash and carry.
Oh, okay.
That area is where he's
All right,
talking
that's
about.
good. Oh, good to know. Good to know.
And I just wanted to go back to what Todd was saying with the US 301. So the US 301 funding pot is coming from the SU funds. And so this corridor is coming from a different set of funding pot money. So I just think, I understand the concern of, well, what if this is going above this project? But honestly, it's probably going to end up in tandem, because you're already on PD&E in some section of the 301, and it's moving along the SU process. And then now we've just incorporated this into our LRTP and our TIP, and we're moving it through on the other funds process. There's different buckets of money out there going through different processes. So I don't necessarily look at it as one above another. It's just going through a different funding process and a different stream. So I think we have to just revamp how we're looking at, well, this one's getting done before this one. I think it's more of this is down this stream. And it's just kind of, we're all going together down the stream, right? And I think we're all going to end up there at the same time. We're just going going down different streams. So I think we're all gonna end up where we wanna be. 301 will probably be done, maybe, maybe not, as soon as it is, but I think it's all gonna go exactly the route it's supposed to go.
Thank you.
And I had another,
Ben
Just
Cat
one
had
more.
you have a comment?
Yeah, this is one cat.
You have no microphone.
No, what she's saying, I think you get a seat at the table.
That's fine.
yeah, you're supposed to sit up here, Venkat.
You could
And
add
then
a
I
couple
had
of
one more
votes.
after he's done. I have another comment.
So what I heard is, I got a couple of calls last week from FDOT operations also. There are a couple of other fundings coming up from federal and also through the infrastructure bill. They're looking at different projects also. They asked me if there are any other operation projects they want to consider also. So like I said, as Tanya mentioned, there are different streams coming up, and they are not final at which stream and what it is picking up. There's too many moving parts as far as I mentioned. Yeah.
Thank you, Venkat.
So, Jensen, you may have the answer to this. The segment from Polk County, the segment in green, from Polk County line to 54. Oh, it's only to 50. Oh, and so that doesn't have anything to do with the realignment, because there was a Clinton Avenue extension realignment and US 98 that was part of a PD&E that was done. So is that at all affected by this segment at the end? Because it doesn't, it looks like, I don't know, it looks like it could be, at least on the northern end.
Jensen, did they
Yeah, so-
choose the alignment yet on the
So-
US 98?
So with the realignment there at Clinton Avenue, that's specifically coming out of the State Route 52 construction project and future realignment of that to the Clinton Avenue corridor. So we had looked at obviously the amount of severe injury crashes that were occurring at Clinton and as well as at the 98 intersection with 301. And so that's kind of what brought together the actual realignment of US 98 to go kind of up and around to align further with Clinton Avenue to connect directly to State Route 52. That was kind of a PD&E all in itself, just kind of attached as a goes with to the 52 construction project once that alignment gets finalized in just about another couple of years here. What happened with this specific project when the rural arterial funds became available for the US 98 and 301 project that you're hearing today, we actually incorporated that specific PD&E into the rest of that corridor down to the Polk County line as one segment. So that segment actually encompasses not only the piece from the realignment to the Polk County line, but it also encompasses the realignment that Brian Schroyer was doing as part of that PD&E to get up to Clinton Avenue.
Great. Oh, that's great, because that has a lot of crashes. It's a real problem area. Okay,
Yes.
good. Okay, that's very good.
Any other comments, questions? Melanie, got something to say?
No.
Okay. Any others? Anybody online? Okay, we're going to go back to item 5D on the agenda. And I think we've heard a lot of additional supplemental information. Thank you, Ashley and Jensen. And are there any comments? If not, we'll call for a motion on the item.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the TIP amendments.
I'll second.
Thank you. Melanie?
Melanie, I.
Kurt Scheibel, no.
Todd Vandenberg, aye.
Deborah Bolduc, aye.
Cynthia Spidel, I.
Chris Leontis, aye. Okay,
Motion approves. Next item is 5E. It's a LRTP plan amendment. Again, US 301, 98, 301 corridor, which we've been talking about.
Just one thing is, I'm looking at the LRTP on here, and I'm not even seeing it. The only project I see for 301 is south of Zephyr Hills and connections too. So just so you understand, I'm going to vote no on this because it's not even on the TRP when I'm looking at 3 to 4 pages worth of projects that need to be done prior to this that I believe are more dangerous than this one even is, because they said there's a safety issue. I'd like to know what the numbers are for 52 for safety. How about on Little Road, some of these other ones here that are on this LRTP? But that's just my comment for this portion.
Okay. Comments, questions on this particular item? If not, we'll call for a motion.
So motioned.
This is Melanie, I'll
I'll
second.
go second just for the vote.
Okay, Melanie seconded.
Melanie, I.
Kurt Scheibel, nay.
Todd Vandenberg, aye.
Deborah Bolduc, aye.
Cynthia Spidel, aye.
Chris DeNantis, aye.
Okay. Moves on to item 5F. This is the DOT's annual joint certification MPO.
Yes, every year, the Florida Department of Transportation and the MPO, we conduct a annual joint certification. This year, we had our annual joint certification and we reviewed our findings. And we met this year on April 6, 2021 to review those findings. We did bring up our invoice to current, and we are currently going through a process of reviewing our financial and other MPO processes.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, call for a motion.
Move to approve, Kurt.
I'll second it.
Okay. Melanie?
Melanie, I.
Kurt Scheibel, aye.
Todd Vandenberg, aye.
Deborah Bolduc, aye.
Cynthia Spidel, aye.
Chris DeNantis, aye.
Okay. Okay, we're down to item G, amendments to UPWP.
Yes. Every year we receive, this year we are going to conduct a amendment to our PL funds and our UPWP, which is our budget. We are amending the second year to reflect our budgetary ceiling, which we have to do our closeout of our funds, which will raise our budgetary ceiling, as you can see on the second page, to $1,929,123. We're asking the CAC to approve our amendment for the current fiscal year.
Thank you, Tania. Any comments, questions? Call for motion.
Approve the UPWP amendment.
Seconded, Kurt Scheibel.
Thank you.
Melanie, I.
Kurt Scheibel, aye.
Todd Vandenberg, aye.
Deborah Bolduc, aye.
Cynthia Spidel, aye.
Chris DeNantis, aye.
Thank you. Motion approved. We also have a TIP draft, fiscal years 21 through 26.
It's me again. All right, so I'm going to bring to you the Transportation Improvement Program. This is what we conduct every year. We update it, even though it's in a 5-year program. We bring it to you annually to update the Transportation Improvement Program, and then we bring you the projects that are within the Transportation Improvement Program. Oh. So each year, the fiscal year runs from, it should be the federal fiscal year runs from October 1st, 2021 to September 30th, 2022. It's a 1-year proposed budget with pending legislation from the governor for approval. It's year 2 to 5 year of the planning purposes, and it includes FDOT's local projects, SIGP and TRIP. And of course, we run 2 TIPs concurrent for 3 months until we get to October 1st, until it's approved by the state legislature. But however, we bring it to our board on July 1st to get approval, so that way it can go through the legislation process. Hopefully I said that right. I know that was a mouthful. So like I said, after the governor starts the work program, the first year it's included in the state budget and the work program is considered for adoption. We are now in the, and then we'll be in the first year. So in fiscal year 22. So like I said, as a part of our transportation improvement program, which we do every year, we bring to our board on July 1st, fiscal year 22 to 26. And that'll be posted as of today. And I'll send out an email blast with the new tip, which includes all of the projects for safety and security, system preservation, multimodal enhancements, operational improvements. And it's based on our priorities from the MPO, TMA, TBARDA, and FDOT. And we also have a safety document this year, and they're outlining all of our safety practices, how we plan to get to Vision Zero, all of our accomplishments in the county. So the Transportation Improvement Program, you should really check it out this year from the technical aspect. We've really put a lot of work into it, outlining what the Pasco MPO is planning to do to reach some of our safety targets. I think the way we're going is that we're going to really be focusing on safety. So as you can see, we did the active transportation plan, we did Vision Zero Phase 1, now we're in Vision Zero Phase 2, and I think the sky's the limit. So let's get into the projects that are, we received the funding from the state that goes into the Transportation Improvement Program that is placed into the TIP. So of course, this is one of our biggest projects. It's the State Road 52 from east of 41 to Aaron Cutoff with construction in 2026. And then on the bottom part of it, as you can see in the slides, it's from the right-of-way from Aaron Cutoff to Bellamy Brothers is funded. The construction is not yet funded, but do not be dismayed. That will probably come up in the next work program. But for right now, the right-of-way is funded, all right? Okay, and then we move on. We have our roundabouts. We've been talking about the roundabouts. Melanie, are you excited? Okay, she's kind of excited, not as excited as she'd like to be, but this is for the date.
I see New Year's.
What is that?
See New Year's on here again.
But when you do get your roundabout, you'll be thoroughly excited. And it'll be a lot safer at your roundabouts. From 52 to 21st Street, from Church Avenue to County Road 578 in Dade City. And then we have the SR 52 roundabout at College Avenue and Pompanic in St. Leo. We have 2 resurfacings from 52 Meriden Avenue. Oh, go back. Yes, Venkat.
The 52 at College Avenue from St. Leo. Is that not a traffic signal right there?
Yeah, there is.
Yes, but I believe there's a lot of crashes occurring or there's pedestrian.
It was just installed,
It was just installed.
Yeah.
maybe in the past 6 months.
All right.
No, last year, yeah.
Jensen, can you elaborate if you're online?
Yes, I'm here. The specific place where the roundabout is proposed is actually past Curly. State Road 52 going eastbound takes a left and you go northbound, and you have a quick right to go towards Dade City. That's the location of the roundabout. There's no signal there currently. It's kind of an awkward yield stop sign thing. That's the place of where the roundabout will be constructed.
It's at the Jiffy Stop.
Yes, kind of where that little coffee stand is there on the southeast corner.
Yeah.
You said the Jiffy Stop?
The Jiffy Stop.
It's the Jiffy sandwich shop.
Okay, thank you. I was like, there's a light. Okay. Thank you for clarifying, Jensen. Then we move on to the resurfacing at SR 52 Meridian from west of Storch Lane to US 98. And we have another resurfacing from US 301 to Gall Boulevard from Hillsborough County line to State Road 39. And additionally, we have additional resurfacings from SR 54 from US 41 to Knights Road and US 41 from Hillsborough County line to Bell Lake Road. And again, another resurfacing from SR 54 from US 19 to Virginia City Drive to Old Mill Pond Road, and SR 54 from Mitchell Ranch Road to Marathon Road. lighting. And then again, this plays into the safety direction. We're moving into the MPO. We have corridor lighting from SR 54 from east of Gun Highway to east of Altamont Lane. And then we have enhanced update corridor lighting from SR 52 from US 19 to Hicks Road.
Question on that, what does
Yes.
enhance mean?
With the LED lighting,
Oh,
where it's really super, it's like super bright. If you ever seen the difference, like when it comes down, you could like, it's like a beam. It's really, really bright.
Is it purple?
And it's like I want to say bluish, like a light bluish.
Yeah, like you're walking into the rave.
No, it's not purple. Definitely not purple.
Or is it purple? Is it purple or
No.
blue? It reminds you of a bluish.
No, it's
It's like
it's got a bluish tint to it, but it's extremely white light. Yeah.
That's really bright.
I
Like,
know
that's
the
what I
ones that you're
remember. I'm like,
talking
oh my
about. Some of the ones that aren't calibrated correctly, I've seen that are like kind of a weird purple, but none of these will be that color.
God, that's not supposed to be happening.
We've just received a lot of complaints in Dade City from where Tico is enhancing the lighting system to the blue lights. And it's a little funky in a rural area.
Yeah, some
Right,
of them
'cause
can have
yeah.
they definitely have a more, well, really it's a hotter color, so it burns hotter and that's why it turns purple. But these will burn a little cooler, so they're on the white spectrum and not into the blue and purple spectrum.
Yeah, I think I've seen blue is the ones I've seen. And then we have, again, enhanced corridor lighting from 54 from US 19 to Little Road. And if you've been down there at night, you know it needs it. We have US 301 from Tucker to Pretty Pond. Todd and I can both agree on this one.
yeah, Tania, thank you. That's great. And I guess this is all being coordinated with the PD&E study that's being done on there for the future improvements on South 301.
These are probably standalone.
I would think so.
Oh, okay.
I would think. Venkat, when you say these are.
VinCat's confirming it is a part of it.
Standalone projects.
Okay.
Not a goes with.
Okay.
Oh, wait, Debbie, you said it's not?
I would say no, but Jensen, this is their program. But if you call
it's
it out
not-
as looks like an individual project, like a standalone project.
It's not a goes with project, it's a standalone project, but yes, Todd, we are taking into consideration some of what's coming out of the PD&E study there, so that when this actually goes to construction, that we're accurate with kind of what we've been talking about of the right of way and how that's going to work out through that corridor.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Or it might just happen all at once, and it seems like it's all together.
Hey, I like the way you think. 2024 would be great.
Yeah, right? It'll all come down. at
Share
once.
that with Pia.
Right. And then, of course, for those of us on the east side of the county who lives by the mall, we have SR 56 from Willow Oak Drive to Wiregrass Mall entrance, and SR 56 from Wiregrass Mall entrance to Meadow Point Boulevard. And then we have pedestrian bicycle facilities, SR 54 from west of Mitchell Ranch Plaza, entrance to Marathon Drive. We have a pedestrian facility in Complete Streets. And then we have Mitchell Boulevard from Churchill Parkway to Trinity Oaks. It's a pedestrian facility and a shared use path on the south side. And again, we have Jasmine Boulevard, which I think we've been talking about Jasmine Boulevard for quite a bit, from US 19 to Little Road. We have a multi-use path along the south side of Jasmine Boulevard. And then we have School Road from Community Center Road to US 41. And we have a multi-use path west side of the school plus ADA ramps, which is another hot topic issue with ADA accessibility. Yes, somebody have a question?
Jensen, this is Debbie. So is it just that you're adding the construction phase to the design funding, or is the county responsible for the design?
Which project?
Jasmine Boulevard and School Road. Because neither one of those have been designed. So is it just that you're adding the construction phase on top of it?
Well, what we're doing is we're adding the construction phase to those outer years, assuming that the design will then be done in the interim. So that way, when we get to construction, obviously, we're at that phase of what needs to be done for that project.
So the design done by the county, or the design being funded by DOT and done by the county? Did you fund the design phase? I guess that's my question. Let's go all around the world. Did you
Yeah,
fund the design phase for these two projects too?
I don't believe so. I think we just did construction, but I think these are SIGP, if I'm not mistaken.
TA, those two are.
These are TA ones. Let me double check. If I find it by the end of this
Yeah.
meeting, I'll interrupt and let you know, but I'll look into that to make sure we have everything lined up.
Yeah, because I'm not sure about those. Now, for Mitchell Boulevard, we agreed to do the design phase and DOT was funding construction, but I don't think we did that with those two, with Jasmine and School Road.
Okay, yeah, I'll look into it.
Okay, thanks.
All right, let's keep going forward. And then we have our famed Orange Belt segment, one from east of Little Road to SR 54, construction in 2025, and the Sun Trail is funded. It's funded by the Sun Trail. So, and Tina will be going more into this with the LOPP presentation as well. We have also US 19. I think this is most, this project here is very interesting because it's about what we're talking about right now with electric vehicles, connected vehicles, and it's from US 19 from Pinellas County line to Hernando County line. We have intersection improvements for connected vehicle technology. So, I mean, when I read that, I was like, that's awesome. It's starting, it's here. We can't go back now. So I thought that was really interesting. And
Yeah, let me give a quick shout
yes.
out. So this whole intersection improvement connected vehicle technology, this project is VenCat going after this smart US 19 grant. So VenCat is the guru on this. I mean, it was his, you know, I'm going to call you out in a good way. I just felt I call you people out in a good way. I'm calling out in a good way because he put together the grant application and he had a really fast turnaround time. I think he did it on a weekend because Peter Shue said there was money available, and you know, VenCat was all over this. So kudos to VenCat for being forward thinking and moving the bar. So
Good job, Venkat.
Great accomplishment.
Yep.
Now we're never going to leave you alone, but Kat, see what you created. All right. So to wrap up the presentation, overall, for the next 5 years, we have $304.18 million programmed, and this increased by last year. We only had 300 million programmed, so it's a slow and steady increase. We keep getting more and more projects in. So
We need it.
thank you.
So as part of telling your story, I'd suggest that you create a project map that shows where each of the projects are
Yeah, I
for
was
the
thinking
for
that
the
too.
dollar figure.
he's got that in his grant application.
Oh, did he?
I think
Awesome.
so. Actually, in DOT came.
Yeah.
I think it's out there. I
That's
think it's
one
out
of the
there.
things, especially when dealing with our commissioners, that really helps out.
I do know they have requested that in the past.
And
I
we've
know
done it-
Commissioner Starkey requested, you were correct.
Yeah, we've done it in the past as well as part of long range folks.
Okay, that's it, right, Tania?
That's it for me.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Todd, I have
Any
a
other
quick
further
statement.
Yep, go ahead, Jensen.
Debbie, I told you, I found out already. Sometimes I'm quick. So for those two TA projects for Jasmine and for School Road, those were both gained this cycle. So the construction is what is in the current work program for 26. And the design for both of those is in fiscal 24.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Jensen.
Yep, you're welcome.
Any further comments? Okay, again, this is item agenda number 5H. Call for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second,
Oh, Kurt.
Thank you, Kurt.
Melanie Romagnoli, aye.
Kurt Scheibel, aye.
Todd Vandenberg, aye.
Deborah Bullock, aye.
Cynthia Spidel, aye.
Christina says aye.
Motion approved. Thank you. That moves us to finally our last action item, which is the 2021 draft list of priority projects.
Tina Russo will be presenting.
Thank you, Tina.
So Tina Russo, Active Transportation Planner for Pasco MPO. I knew you were going to do that. So hot off the press Friday morning, basically, after a lot of work, we have come up with the next kind of step in what our list of priority projects would look like. Totally different in the past. This has been a long time coming. So with a lot of help from FDOT and staff and Hillsborough and Pinellas looking at their list of priority projects, how this is supposed to look like from here on out. So what is a little different is there is a P and a U by these projects. This following or this upcoming year, we will change some of those U's to numbers, but that will happen with the committee's vetting a ranking process. So cleaned up the list first. That took a while. On this list, you can see we just have the proposed, and that little bit of red there kind of gives you an idea of where this project was on last year's list. What's really, really different is a lot of our projects weren't on our list, and a lot of our projects were on the list that were funded. So we really had to clean up these projects so you really know where they're at and the process. So we're going to just go down. These all projects, some of these were on our list last year. As you can see, they were numbered last year, but these all have funding. We made it a little bit cleaner, and Jensen kind of helped me quite a bit with this. So you just know where construction is on these projects. I got rid of the right-of-way design because it's already done. What you want to know is when these things are going to be constructed. So we're just going to go through. These now bring us to those unfunded list, okay? Those projects that are unfunded. Most of these were on the list last year. Some of them weren't. But then you can see what is already funded. And then what the biggest thing is with this list, this is how we ask DOT what we want, okay? And I like Carl's analogy and Jensen. This is our Christmas list. Yes, sir.
Is this prioritized or just as in order, any order?
No, there is no order. It's funded or unfunded. We are going to go through a process in the next year on how these projects will be prioritized and ranked.
Because the question I'm asking is we just voted on SR 301, which it says unfunded, but you're telling us it's funded. Is it unfunded or funded? Because it's on there. If I'm looking at it, if I'm reading it right, I'm just curious.
Which one, which project exactly, Kurt?
Take it from the bottom, top, three from the top, four from the top.
Okay, so it's unfunded, correct? Is it the exact same project? That's the roundabouts.
Okay.
Different project. Because those actually are at the bottom of this list. We actually added them because they're not funded for construction yet.
Okay.
So that's a different project. Those are 52 roundabouts there. And both roundabouts are in a different process, right, Jensen? One of them's constructed fund and one of them's not. And that's kind of how that's up there. Most important part is this just went out for a 30-day comment too, starting today. So for that information. So next page, we start going into some of our newer projects. Example, Orange Belt is now semi-segmented. Before it was just lumped in there, okay? So we started segmenting a 37-mile project into segments. Some of it's funded, some of it's not funded. So that gives an idea as we move forward in prioritizing these projects, you know what's funded, what's not funded, and what the project includes. And I just use that project for example because I have a little bit better understanding of it.
So,
and go ahead, Deb.
So for Orange Belt, so that you're aware, that is supposed to be entirely funded by Penny for Pasco. So there is a huge chunk of money that's being thrown at the Orange Belt. So the assumption going forward is that Orange Belt is paid for in its entirety. However, there may be opportunities for DOT funding if we have to build bridges or do other types of improvements that may not have been envisioned when it was initially scoped in 2015 when the penny was renewed. So I don't want the board to assume that we are not taking it all the way to Trilby, because the intention is to take it all the way to Trilby.
Right.
So this DOT support can help to advance construction of other segments, can help can't fund it.
And we have an extra sheet at the very end of this list of priority projects just for that reason, even though it's really not the list of priority projects that we're asking for DOT. And just to give you some background on Orange Belt, because again, it was just thrown in as one big project in our list of priority projects. The first segment, which you just saw on the 5-year work program, is Sun Trail funding. The piece from Little Road to basically 54 is Sun Trail funding or state funding. We also have another another Sun Trail funding application in for another piece up Orange Belt as well. But that's where part of this list starts to really drill down and show you different projects. Yes, sir.
I don't mean to be, I'm like looking at the very first line, which talks about SR 52 Schrader Highway, and it says unfunded, but then you have a column that says it's funded. And I'm kind of trying to find out, oh, the CST is unfunded. It just-
Yeah, construction's
but-
unfunded.
What I'm saying is it just seems kind of confusing that you have funded and then unfunded, and there's other ones on here, like the one below it, it says it's funded. 25, 26, yet have a U for it. That's the SR US 301, SR 41/GAL.
Right, when a project's considered funded, it's when it receives the construction funding.
I understand what you're saying, but what your report says here on this says that it's not funded, yet it also shows funded. So it's confusing to me is all I'm saying, is that you might be sending a mixed message, but I understand what you're saying. It's not funded until construction's done.
Right.
I got funding, and I understand that.
Where's that, Kurt?
Number 2, I'm just looking at like the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They all have funded, but there's some of them now that actually says CSD is unfunded.
He's on a different page.
You by it is unfunded.
He's on a different page.
I'm looking at the
Okay.
very first page of unfunded
Oh.
multimodal project priority projects. Number 2, I don't know what it is it's 102 in your package on,
Yeah, it's the first one, it says SR 52 Schrader Highway, right-of-way acquisition, construction unfunded.
So maybe what you can consider doing, if you want to just keep it simple and say, keep it to, P or U, in the header up here where you say priority projects under construction or funded for construction, then you could put another sentence that reads, you can mean projects are partially funded, but not funded for construction.
Well, I'm
So
saying-
put
I
a
was
clarification
Yeah,
at the
it makes
beginning of the
sense. That makes sense
table
to me.
so that there's not
Yeah, it is
confusion,
confusing.
because what he's saying, there is
Now it's-
confusion. So
Yeah,
if you
I think
explain
it's also,
it
you
in
can
the,
also just take right-of-way acquisition out
Anybody
of the
reading this is
status,
gonna
right? Because you got funded phases right away. So then the status would just be construction is unfunded.
And I
think
can
that would be
change
clear.
that status. That's our request. So that might clear it up a little bit better.
'Cause it
Yeah.
clearly
It's just,
states
I'm
it,
seeing
though.
it says it's funded, but it's not funded, but and you
Yeah.
just,
It's-
that was
It's
confusing.
funded to a certain point and then it's not. So that's what
Remember,
we're,
you gotta
yeah.
get the lowest common denominator, which is where I'm at down.
Good. And that's why we have 30 days of comments.
so I guess before we do the next page, I was going to wait till the end, but we got a few pages to cover. So if you, on page 1, where you see County Road 54, Wesley Chapel Boulevard, so I can I'll give it to you as an informational item. You don't have to note it in here, but I did submit a trip application to DOT to advance the construction phase of the segment of 54 from north of Magnolia to Oakley to 2022. So it can be a goes with project with the larger segment above it. So that's an informational item for you. So that could be changing to construction in 21-22 versus 22-23.
That's good. Good job, Deb.
Okay.
Do you mind sending us an email for that?
Yeah, I sent it to you guys. Didn't I send you something on the trip applications for 54? I thought I sent it, maybe. Yeah, okay.
See what I mean? How it took us a while to clean up projects?
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts with this.
I'm just trying to make sure I understand. On page 2 for that, the number 17 ranked project before, third one down. So on the status, SU submitted for construction 2021. I'm sorry, what does that mean again?
Which one are you talking about?
The third one down,
408-075,
408-075.
number 17,
Yeah, number 17.
in the red.
So we submitted an SU application this past March for construction for that project.
I guess
We
the
don't know
question
if
is
it's
what the-
So
been,
define SU. I guess.
Yeah,
because
I don't understand the issue, I'm
When
sorry.
you're, yeah, so he's
Yeah.
just saying, what does SU mean?
so it's a type of application to seek
Stands
funding.
for
Right.
surface. What
And
does it
it's
stand
actually the
for?
first year. Yeah. So
Okay.
Within federal funding, there is surface transportation block grant program funds that then are further subdivided out. Those funds are subdivided out from that program for transportation management areas, which we are one of. We have a pile of money, if you will. Well, let's not say pile, that makes it sound rather big. But there is a pot of money that is available for projects. And we then will put in applications to use that money towards projects. But those funds are distributed on a population basis to all of the areas across Florida over 200,000. So there's a set number. And that's what we're attempting to put the money to, or put this project towards those funds.
Okay.
So
Very
what does
good.
it mean when you have MPO in there as well? Does that mean that? you
that's
guys-
who submitted the application.
Okay,
Okay.
gotcha.
And again, those, there, you can see those right in a row. Those were
Yeah.
based on those needing construction applications, and they were in that line of priorities previously for us to go after some funding. And those were right in a row. Those, all three of those, we put SU applications in. We also put some other ones in. One of them was the mid-block crossing, at grade crossing of Starkey Gap and 54. But all those are on there. They're unfunded, but we did already submit an application for construction for those because all those other prerequisites have already been done for those projects. Okay, so the next line would be construction, and then that's what we were asking for.
And just to clarify, FDOT has always kind of required the SU application process. We're just now memorializing it in the Pasco MPO. So I think that may be throwing some of us off up there because we've never actually followed through that process here. But moving forward, that's how it's going to be done. So,
including how we do our list of priority projects, one of the things that FDOs really encourage us to do is to clean up our list and just have our wish list basically on there. And that's what we've done this first process, is to clean out or clean up the project list itself. And again, this is,
But how do these 301 segments correlate back to the funding that you received on that DOT presented?
Oh, the tip amendment.
So-
Tip amendment.
and
How does
Tania
it-
can
how do these-
clarify,
Yeah.
they're just at that beginning stage of designing it. Most of these have gone through those phases already. Some of them need right of way, just like they made the presentation in the segment. Some of them have to require right of way. So they have to go through that PD&E right of way acquisition if they need it. From there, then the funding is for construction as needed. So you have to go through those phases to get to this point before we can do construction. And that's kind of what we're showing you. This is that final phase until we get the funding from construction. You have to go through all those phases to get to this point.
So now I think you said that you were going to go through a process to prioritize all of these?
So this coming year, this will be this list for this year, exactly like this, funded basically and unfunded. We'll go through the process with all of our committees on how you want to rank those projects. There's lots of different ways to do that. A lot of it's, there's a connect, what's the population. So we'll vet out that ranking system. But then these projects, and we do this regionally, we'll go through that ranking system and they'll be ranked according to that, I call it like a grading system, but they'll be ranked accordingly.
So will you have one set of criteria for everything, even if it's a state road versus a sidewalk? Will there be one set of criteria, or will you differentiate by type?
So that depends on you guys. Now, what Pinellas, Hillsborough County do, and we kind of started it here, and I can just use this for an example. Our multimodal, our multi-use paths now are on the multimodal list. Just sidewalks are now on our TA list. And I'll just be right up front with you. Eland Boulevard, been on our TA list, I don't know how many years, only been a year, been number one it wouldn't have been funded as number one on a TA list. Big project, TA funds, much smaller. So we put this now on the multimodal list where it should be, where it has a better opportunity to receive that funding. Okay, so the only thing on our TA list will be sidewalks that will use that sidewalk criteria. We're going through a great process with the county right now on how we're going to process our sidewalks. It'll go through a request online where people can request, but that's a whole different process that we're working with the county that's going to be really fabulous, and Debbie can talk about that a little bit, but we're finally cleaning that up as well at a perfect time with us redoing our list of priority projects. But our multi-use paths are now on the multimodal list, and that's where they belong, okay? That's why when you get through here and you see our new TA list, it's much smaller because I think there was like 5 or 6 multi-use paths that were on our TA projects, but now they're part of the multimodal list, project list. And again, we'll prioritize them like all the other projects. We did this in Hillsborough County a few years ago. It went through some tweaking and stuff, but it's really, you know where your project really stands once it's based on that ranking system with everybody else. Safety is a big thing right now, okay? So that's going to show up as a safety project as much as anything else. But again, these projects need to be where they belong so they have the opportunity for funding. It does no good for a project to be number one on the list if it's not on the right list for funding. Just like we kind of talked about these pots. If your project's on a list that those pots aren't going to really fund it, then we need to move that project to the right list.
So on this list, you've got, Fort King Road and Ballantrae Boulevard were 2 safe routes to schools projects that weren't TA funded, and they're both fully funded.
So according to what Jensen told me, they're not funded for construction. That's why they're on there. Again, we put it up there, and that's why in fact, I had them on the other list and we moved them.
And you moved them?
Mm-hmm.
Can I just bring up a point of clarity? So
Yep.
the US 98 301 corridor tip-step amendment, LRTP amendment, we did the tip-step amendment to get it into the tip for the funding cycle, and then the LRTP amendment to get it into our LRTP, so that way we can on the next cycle start to put it in our list of priority projects. That's how that cycle works, because we need to get it into our document so that way we can put it on the list of priority projects. And then the US 301 projects, they're already in there as it is, so then it starts through the cycle. So there's 2 different projects going on. So I just wanted to clarify that.
No,
US
thank you.
301 and then US 98 301 corridor.
Okay, so I'm confused. Are you trying, so there was a US 98 realignment that had to do with State Road 52, and that's what Jensen clarified. So what you're saying doesn't have to do with that, does it?
No. There was
Okay. There was something else.
Yeah,
There was another thing.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
That's a whole nother one too.
Yeah. Well, he explained, Jensen explained that, and so maybe, okay. Yeah.
So again, just basically funded, unfunded. We added quite a few to the unfunded list that weren't on there before, so we know where they're at. Again, there's the State Road 301, US 301. Notice they're in that 4 segments as well, all one project. Kind of just shows you where they're at. There's some exciting ones, kind of to go back to what we talked about. We did add some new applications. I talked about the SU application, that safety money. Actually, we put in an SU application for the Starkey Gap at grade crossing. We had an application in for Sun Trail funding for the overpass that has not been funded. It's coming in at 12 million. Which might take a while. So we looked at some opportunity. The county's going to help the state. We put in an application for a at-grade crossing for the Starkey Gap to the east of Starkey Boulevard and 54 hopefully with some funding, and then the county's chipping in quite a bit between VinCat and Debbie on helping move that forward as well. We needed something to improve safety on that, so we kind of all looked at it as many different ways we can, including with the extension of Lake Blanche into Starkey Boulevard, how we can make that crossing much safer. We also have 2 studies that DOT is really looking at us to help work on. The whole corridor kind of comes into play, what we were talking about earlier. The whole corridor of 54, 56, all the way from 301, all the way to 19. We're going to look at every intersection. We're going to look at multimodals, how we can make those intersections safer. And 19, and again, 19 is going to be from county line to county line. We're going to look at every intersection, and we're looking at multimodals, how we can make them safer. And we'll just see where that goes. But those are on that list as well. And we're going to kind of go from there, but a lot of those are going to look at a lot of different things. We want to look at transit as part of that as well, how we can make those whole corridors safer. And then, Debbie, we already talked about our TA list as well, because we took some of those multimodals off, changed that list a little bit in that process of really updating how we take those sidewalk requests in. We're pretty much going to vet them. Once they come in and we know they're viable, and they go through VinCat and through CIP and through project management, then we'll probably just know if that project is eligible for TA, and we'll move forward right then and there and probably submit an application without waiting till March to send in those applications.
So it will be
staff
real
mem-
important, because I'll put the plug in now.
Yes,
It's
please.
really important when you're doing your planning for your grant funds to get a budget every year for that work that is being requested by Tina to assess the feasibility and constructability of these sidewalk projects in order to position you to apply for a grant. So, because our department is 100% chargeback, so we have to have an account number set up. So that'll be important for Tina every year when you're looking at programs, saying, well, if I want to submit like 15 applications and I have to determine feasibility and constructability, and then VenCat has to look at this and survey has to do all this work, then you have to budget another $85,000 for me to do this activity. So I don't know if you want to call it out as a separate activity in your planning program in UPWP, but it'll be really important because that will be able to determine how quickly you can get things out there for grant funding, and then what falls to the unfunded side of the house that I'll have to pick up to do right away for. But we'll need to have Tina's going to have a budget.
Yeah.
It's in there, Debbie. We have the safe routes and the TA in there, and whatever she needs, we put it through. It's just that in the last few years, we haven't emphasized how much of the budget we need. So I think it's the planning out.
So she can estimate every year. I want to put in 15.
Yeah.
I've got 15 requests and I want to have this preliminary work done. It's going to cost X, because we can calculate how much that will be. And
well, and if we
real quick, this is a part of our priority of projects. I'm confused. Are we talking about budget, or are we talking about priority
I
projects?
just brought it up. No, we're
Oh,
not.
okay, I'm
I'm
sorry.
just saying
I'm
that
trying to
in
keep
order-
track of what's going on here, and it's like, oh, wait a second. I thought we were just talking about priority projects.
but that's how those,
I think she's just saying, get it on the unfunded list, so that this way, you're
Yeah.
constantly preparing, you're working
If
your
you're always
pipeline,
doing the work,
so you're always,
you know,
you're
and
always
it,
preparing yourself for the next year.
again, it goes back to, it doesn't do us any good to have a project list on there if we don't have a way.
to be able to do something.
That's right.
Doing something means that Tina's going to need money to pay for feasibility and constructability to move forward, to get money to get it off the unfunded to a funded list.
So since Manny retired, who's the Safe Routes coordinator? All right.
Well, Safe Routes goes
It's-
through traffic.
It's,
ops.
yeah.
So I had worked, so it's traffic ops and Safe Routes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, just
Speaking of
curious that
safe
way
routes,
when
I don't know if anybody's ever complained to you, but ever since the new development came in on the in between Photonics and Mitchell, the kids coming out of Thousand Oaks cross Mitchell right there, like where the old Winn-Dixie used to be. That's now a church. They don't actually
And
go.
there,
They don't go to, they don't go to Little to cross safely. They just cut over the road and there's no crosswalk there. So I didn't know if anybody had mentioned that to
So
you.
good news, VinCap and I both sit on the school safety group and all of those get kind of vetted out at least about once a month. So we look at all of those.
So what I can do though is I can post it on some of the local communities, the active plans and stuff like that, so that people can kind of participate at least and mention it if they're concerned about it, right? Because don't you need kind of community input if it's
Well,
an
usually
issue?
Getting sidetracked, yes, that is an operational issue. We're working on it. We already have the crossing plan for it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So, transit table, again, cleaned it up quite a bit. We have the one program that happened. Again, Kurt, any kind of input, since this is probably the first time you've seen it since we talked about it. So, and then the rest of those are still unfunded, and they're actually prioritized. And if we need to change that, just let me know, okay? And that's just based on last year's, a little bit different. And then, again, because Debbie commented and we just knew it was going to come up. There was several, we went back and forth on this quite a bit, didn't we? So, Penny for Pasco is not our wish list to the state office, but we knew that people were going to wonder where all those projects went. So we wanted to show all those really nice Penny for Pasco projects that are funded by the county that sort of just disappeared off the list. They didn't disappear. The good news is they're funded. Now, that doesn't mean in the future, if a project that's, and I'll give you an example, Orange Belt, the project is partially funded by Penny, but needs state funding, it doesn't mean that we can't put it on the list and then have joint funding for a project, okay? The main reason we did this is a lot of these were on our list for years and years, and we don't want to think they just disappeared because they haven't. They've been funded, and they're funded for construction.
so you got to take Boyette off this list because that's funded through tax increment revenue. It's not a penny project.
Okay, thank
Boyette's
you.
not.
Thank you.
So
Boyette's
one,
misspelled.
you know, from Suncoast Trail to 5A is, but Boyette is not.
Okay,
And if you're asked about Clayton Boulevard, it is rolled into the 5A multi-use path project.
okay, good.
That comes up. If it doesn't come up, don't worry about it. But if it does come up, then you can tell them it's in it. Just so you know.
But that's our list, and again, quite a bit of work to clean it up, and then hopefully this next year, we're gonna go through that process where we can actually prioritize projects based on a ranking system equally across the board.
Tina or Debbie, I don't know who to address this to. We need to get Sam over there to do a presentation to our commissioners about the Hardy Trail extension into the Withlacoochee Trail, especially since we have the visitor center almost, it'd be finished construction in the next 2 months. But that's a question that comes up quite often.
So send me an email,
Mhm.
and then I'll pass it on to Sam.
Okay.
We'll go from there.
Tina, question. This situation I've been communicating with you about where we have a missing length of multi-purpose trail. I was going to bring it up later, but is this multimodal purpose trail list, is that where a project like that, since the builder isn't building an integral link of multi-purpose trail to make that link to 301, is this a list that could go on, or how are we going to get that link
That's a real
fixed?
question because this is something that went through site plan review and the developer was not obligated to do a gap.
Correct.
So I don't know how you can affect that either through the code or through roundtable or whatever, but you know.
But there's no, they're not filling in a gap, but you know, we have two projects. One's going to council meeting tonight. Also on the south side of Chansey, that'll have trail. So we'll have ours east of this Bristol Meadows, I think it's called. And so we'll have a gap there now. And the goal, of course, was to get that multi-purpose trail to connect to 301, that have a multi-purpose trail down to 56. So, you know, there's a big gap there. And there's a sidewalk that leads out from the subdivision to Chansey Road, but And you go down Chansey Road further to Allen Road, and there's a sidewalk there, middle of nowhere. No, it doesn't connect to anything. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess it got missed. So what is the mechanism to, I just hate having a missing link with the, our developers and builders are going to say, well, we're building a trail, but we got a missing link here.
Well, my understanding from Will was that was approved way before it was required to have that, and that's why it's like that. Again, that was a current planning.
South side of Chansey, just west of State Road 39, Paul Buchanan. Crystal Meadows, I think it's called, single-family residential development.
How big's the gap?
Well, we're gonna have trail all the way to 39. There's a county, there's an out parcel reserved for commercial, I believe, and that's probably a couple 100 feet. Well, it's a couple acres, however far that is.
So how wide will this be?
Ours is gonna be 10-foot wide trail.
See, that's where it would be a multimodal project, so.
We're having both developers build the trail right on the edge of the county right-of-way.
Because it's not unusual. Now, they do this for sidewalks. A developer will make a prop share payment for the future construction of something. So they'll determine what their proportion share cost of it is. And that money gets put into an account for future use for whether it's a sidewalk. And I would assume you could do the same thing for a multi-use path. It's going to be a little more expensive, but there's a methodology in terms of coming up with what that cost should be. So I wouldn't know why it couldn't be done for a path like they do it for a sidewalk. So I guess that's a question for you guys to look
Well, and
into.
this project's already approved. That's the whole thing. This was approved by current planning in this way. So I can't give you the history on it at all.
Forward though, if you're going to get a prop share payment for a sidewalk project that was going to be built in the future when at some point by whether it's the county or the city or a developer, they should contribute to pedestrian amenities, especially if you're looking at Vision Zero and you're doing all this work. And in my mind, if you open up a development for another review because they're adding more entitlements or they're doing something new, you're opening the book again. And whether or not they were vested, they may be vested for certain things, but not everything, I would assume.
That's a current planning. I mean, that's what I try to catch now.
But if you're
in the
if you're
pre-app.
going to have this bike ped action
Yeah.
plan and you're being so proactive and
Yep.
you're stressing Vision Zero, then they need to.
Well, and again, now that's why we're being so proactive in the pre-application process to hopefully prevent this from happening in the future. So, and they're coming in, as we all know. So action item.
Yep.
Again, we're in that starting today, that 30-day comment period for our list of priority projects. It will go to the board on June 10th to be voted on. We are doing that workshop this Thursday with the MPO board as well. Kind of the same thing that we're doing right now, explaining how we cleaned it up and how this next coming year we will go through vetting a ranking process for all of our projects.
Thank you, Tina. Further comments, questions?
Move to approve.
Oh, wait, we had a lot of changes to this document and clarifications, so.
Well, there's also some spelling errors in there and some other things too, but I figure they can clean that up before the MPO.
So all these changes that we talked about,
Okay, move to approve with all the changes that we recommended.
yeah, okay.
Melanie,
second it.
second.
Thank you. Go for it.
So Tania, we would like for them to make those comments through our regular comment phase, or do we can use them?
It's part, if you want us to approve it, we have to include that you'll make the changes in there. We can't be part of the
All right.
comment process.
Good.
Correct.
With the changes you made back to the TAC to let them know you made
Okay.
changes.
All right.
Melanie, I.
Kurt, aye.
Todd, aye.
Deborah Bolduc, aye.
Cynthia Spidel, aye.
And Chris Denatus, aye.
Okay, approved unanimously. We have made it through the action items.
Okay.
Okay.
2 hours.
It's a big agenda.
You have
Yeah,
to
it is.
understand the CAC meeting went for 3.5 hours plus.
Okay, 6 status reports, presentations and updates.
There's
I'm going
actually
to make
8
this
'cause I
quick
have
because
3.
everything is in your packet. We did the non-motorized trail counter program back in February at FDOT's expense and with quite a bit of help from our Parks Department. We had 5 locations for 2 weeks. In your packet is the raw data that we got from those counters for those 2 weeks. Just made a presentation for the state as one of the folks that took advantage of them. And I just found out in August, we get to do this again for 2 weeks. So this should be a piece of cake, by the way. So again, the goal of this is to eventually have some long-term counters. We already have a long-term counter at Suncoast, just a little bit north of 54. But these were the 5 locations. There was quite a bit of methodology to the location, just like you do with any counter. There was a method to the madness. A lot of it is to deal with extracting the data and be able to do maintenance for these counters. And that was part of the reason why we did this, is to see what kind of counters were best to locate them. There was 2 counters at every location. So when you look at those numbers, you'll see 2 sheets. There was an infrared counter, which basically gets your walkers, and then there's a tube counter, which counts directional for bike riders and any kind of speed. So 2 different counters, so you can kind of get better numbers. One's better for cyclists, one better for walkers and skaters. But those numbers are in there without me going through there. One important note is you want to note if there was rain or cold and stuff, and that was part of the stats that were in there. Any questions? And then next, the top 2 were together there. One was where they were at, and then also the stats. So everything's in your packet as well.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that the AM peak hour on the weekend was kind of like AM peak hour for cars during the week, like.
Yeah. And February, believe it or not, is an interesting time to do counts. That first Sunday was actually Super Bowl Sunday, and it stormed in the morning. That's why I made sure I put in notes, because you can really tell if something was off, so to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, normally the peak time, it was dead because it was storming outside.
Right.
So.
Okay, which item are we moving on to? Who's doing the next item?
I'm doing the signal for
Okay,
crash
thank you.
analysis. And so, oh, look at you, you're so good. Look at that, he's got it figured out now. So Signal 4 is a program. Been Kev, do you use Signal 4 right at all? So Signal 4, and this is actually signal4analytics.com. You can actually, I got that outside voice, sorry. You can actually pull up this website yourself. So on this, you can kind of see, it gives me the year, the state of Florida. So all our crash data comes from law enforcement crash reports, okay? Just the way it's done. We can do emphasis areas, and when I by emphasis areas, we can kind of pick what I call drill down different types of areas, all right? Now, all of you can do this. This is all available to the public right here, okay? I have a sign-in where I can actually go in and look at crash reports and drill it down a little bit more detail. But I'm just going to give you some information here. It might be easier for me just to scroll down. Let me do. So 2021, this is the whole year, Pasco County. I'm going to go ahead and just put fatalities and serious injury. Actually, let me just do fatalities. And then I'm going to refresh this. So this gives me all the fatalities in Pasco County for the year 2021. We had 330 serious injuries, 40 fatalities. and it'll go down. If you can see this emphasis area, it'll show me the highest fatalities are at intersections. Now, intersections can be so many feet from the intersection too, so don't think every one of them has to be right inside that intersection. Usually they'll give it so many feet from the intersection as well. But intersections are the number one, not uncommon. Aging road users, and you can kind of go down the list and see where our fatalities are. I'm going to go back and do some serious injuries. This gives you your age group. You can kind of see why aging. This one's the one that gets me the most. It's the day of the week that usually surprises me, which most of our fatalities. Who would think Tuesday is where most of our people get killed on the day of the week? But look at the times too. And the next 1 hour a day, usually that evening, and then we have that really, really big jump at 9 p.m. for our fatalities. So our heat map tells us quite a bit. We can see where 19 is.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
19 and 52, 19, and I believe that is actually might be little, maybe 54. That might be little.
Little.
Yeah. And then we come over to that east side, we can kind of see 75, and then further east to Zephyr Hills, Dade City, some of our hot spots here. So, and then I'm gonna come back here just because I want to do bike ped since I have your attention.
You know, it surprises me that 2020 was high.
So,
I don't think people were driving as much.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at the year and I'm like,
No,
what
people
happened?
will be driving more during COVID is what I've seen, as opposed to doing other things. It's just,
But at off times then, because a lot of people were remote or.
There's no traffic.
So this is 2021. I can go back to 20 if you want to.
No, it's okay.
Deb, I mean, we can do that.
Yeah, no, let's look at it.
But this is 2021. These are just bike ped, so we can drill down. But it's really good if I use my heat map, how I can really look at for bike ped. The problem with bike ped is they put bike ped together. I can do pedestrian by themselves. Pedestrian, believe it or not, are usually well outnumbered by bicyclists when it comes to fatalities. But just you guys can do this. This part of Signal 4 Analytics is available to the public, and you can kind of do what I did. And again, we have the option for Vision Zero and an active transportation plan. I can actually go in and drill down to the specific crash and look at the crash report to really get the details to see. And I'll give you an example. Today I was looking at 19 near 52 to the north. There was like 5 fatalities in a row, and 3 of the 5 were rear-ending. So is there something I can do to change that behavior or help that person survive that behavior? We're finding out that we can't always change behavior, so we have to look at lighting is a big one. If young man darts across the road, time change, I can't change time change, even though we're trying to, but can I put lighting out that helps that car driver see that young man darting across the road at that time and normally wouldn't be seeing him? So there's lots of different ways of looking at behavior and what, again, they're crashes, not accidents. What causes this serious injury, fatality to happen, and what can we do to help prevent it?
Are we still seeing a lot of mid-block crossings on 19?
Yes. Say that again, please.
Mid-block crossings is where the majority of them are happening.
oh yeah.
So when you talk about mid-block crossing, you're talking about people making a mid-block crossing that's not there.
Correct.
Jaywalking.
We call it Frogger.
One bar to the other.
Is the 16-year-old to 20-year-old
Yeah.
male
Yeah.
that darts across the road.
Yeah.
Happens on 54, happens on Moon Lake. Again, with lighting and more crosswalks, mid-block crosswalks help them? At least
No.
give them a location to cross. Again, it goes back to the rapid flashing beacons. You have to push the button. You have to wait for the car to stop before you can cross.
Wasn't there a law just passed that those need to be replaced, right?
Not yet.
Not yet.
That bill did not make it. It was sent from the House to the Senate. The Senate did not take up the bill.
Okay, thank you. I thought I remembered reading something about it. I don't know if it made it or not yet. And I was surprised that Tina sat back down. We're about ready to start the next one. Bicycle month.
Take a little rest.
Or are you passing it along to Casey?
Tina, you're on.
Hopefully you can go on. And again, May is National Bike Month. Again, USF Tampa Bay Walk Bike is doing a bike challenge. It's not about how many miles you ride. It's about just getting out and riding your bike. So, huge advantage. They're giving out prizes, and it's not about, again, how many miles you ride. Just get out and ride. In fact, if you ride with your kids, if you go out for a trip, you get extra points for that. We are in first place, Pasco MPO, for the smaller groups. So, yay. So we can always use help, because the more people that join up and ride, the more points we get as a group. So please go on there. There's some great quizzes on there about safety, and they also use the information to help track. So as well. But jump on there. March was our local one. May is National Bike Month.
Okay, and we finish up with 6E. Who's going to handle that
I'm
today?
doing that one.
Okay.
We just wanted to let you know that we'll be going to the board on June 10th, 2021 to bring a tip amendment for our previous tip, because we'll be bringing the current tip to the board on June 10th. We'll have to amend the previous tip to match the up to the current PL funds, which the current PL ceiling will be 1.9 million. And it's currently affecting 1.3 million. So despite us having a new tip, we still have to amend the old tip. So that's why we have to do a tip amendment, because we're bringing both tips to the board. So we just wanted to notify you of that.
Okay, thank you. Any CMP issues?
I have none.
Okay, hearing none.
Next.
PCPT.
If we can bring up do you need the disc? I've got it if you still need it, or do you have it from last time?
I like your logo.
Right there.
I like Go Pasco.
PCPT's new logo is going to be Go Pasco. This is what we're looking at. The thing I like the most is our tagline, open spaces to vibrant places. We get you there. Go ahead, next slide. This is what's going to look on the side of the bus. The whole idea we're looking at is PCPT. We all understand what PCPT is, but the person on the side of the road does not understand it. P stands for Pasco, just PCPT. Now they'll know that we're Pasco Transportation. Slide, please. That's what it's going to look like on the front and back. And then on the sides. And one more. This is going to be our new bus stop sign. In fact, I was just talking back and forth. We're going to go out for a bid for those and get this all up there. Once again, we're looking at going something newer, refresher. PCPT's been around. If you did not know it, in 1 month, PCPT's actually been in place for 25 years. So June 25th. And then next year, though, is our 50th year anniversary of Pasco County providing transportation to Pasco County, public transportation, Pasco County. We're gonna have a lot more events next year. This year is kind of, hey, this is nice. Next year is gonna be a big thing. We'll have a lot of good stuff going on. And then I haven't talked to everybody in a while and talk about our ridership and what's going on. So our fixed route ridership, if you notice, it's all over the map. But if you know that you can't really talk 1 month to the next, you have to talk from 1 month to the next month, next year's month. Please go back one. The little dotted line, that's our 6-month average. So you can see in March of 20, that's when COVID hit, in March of 21. The good news is today I just got our new numbers updated, and it's looking a lot better. We're starting to move up a touch. Let me get the right graph up again. We're still about 30,000 below, but we are starting to see a small uptick in the percentages, if you understand, compared to month. So we were like 30%, we're moving up from there. Next slide, please. This is the different ridership by month throughout the years. And if you actually looked at our, I did on Excel, there's a function to do forecast. If you were to look at the forecast and not count the effects of COVID, we'd be over 1 million riders right now and almost a 10% increase just based off of our previous ridership this year. Slide, please. And there it is by route. And the reason why I kind of give you this one is if you notice, Route 41 is extremely small when you compare it to everybody else. Also, 301 is relatively high, along with Madison, Moon Lake, and so there. 1/3 of our riders still ride US 19, so that's always going to be a focus. But unfortunately, US 41 is not a very viable route anymore. It's just becoming unsustainable as a system. Slide. Paratransit ridership, I don't see this recovering for at least another 6 to 8 months. Many people are still scared about, our elderly especially are scared about catching COVID or being exposed to COVID. And we're still doing outreach programs, but you can see it kind of goes up and down throughout the time period. And the dotted line again is a 6-month average. Slide, please. There's your actual COVID effects. March, and I have the April numbers. Let me see if I can pull them back up again. April is 34% and 42%. The higher, the better. The lower, the worse. So you can see we're starting to climb up, and even with the April ones, it's a little bit of a flattening more than anything. But historically, Pasco County drops in April. We slow down in April, and in June, July, we start picking back up. Slide. This is where I was talking about 41. So when you look at this graph, the higher the blue bar, the more it costs us. So that's bad. The smaller, the higher the gray bar, that's good. So higher blue is bad, higher gray is good. So like US 19, we're transporting people $4.75 per person. Whereas if you look at 41, it costs us $28 per person. My recommendation is that we shut down 41. We're not running it now, but we are recommending to shut down 41, and that will be part of my budget proposal. And hopefully we'll be able to do it sooner rather than later. The one thing that's really telling is that when we had COVID and we shut it down during COVID, we got 0 complaints. Whereas every other route had a complaint that we had shut down for COVID. Slide, please. And there's your paratransit cost per rider. We're actually doing pretty good. We're averaging about 25 to 30. The problem with doing it by month is that if you have an engine go out, that raises the cost for that month. Slide. That should be it. I have one more presentation. This is the big one. Currently, if you did not know, we've been in a 5-year project with HART and for a regional fare box program. Slide, please. The original goals was to provide a single regional fare medium. Currently, it's like a RFI card, something like you would use to get into a building. And for one card for all the systems in the area. The original folks was HART, PSTA, Go Pascal, that's us, the bus, SCAT, and Manatee. Manatee dropped out in 2017, but these are the current folks. The whole idea was to provide an easy way for customers to be able to go online, put a fare on there, and they don't have to carry cash around. So it has some there. The goal is to be faster onboarding. Someone just comes up, beeps the little, they call it a tap. You tap the system, it recognizes that the driver sees it, and they just walk right on. Supposed to be saving us some operational cost. And it was awarded a contract, and their system is called the Flamingo Fare System. Slide. The idea is that they go online and reload the fare card at any time, even through their phone. The big thing is you don't have to have cash and try and get out a dollar bill and 50 cents and all that stuff or whatever it is across the county. The other neat thing was a thing called fare capping. So if you go 3 rides, the 3rd ride will only pay 50 cents, and you just automatically bought yourself a day pass. And it keeps track for a 30-day period. Once you hit a certain time in 30-day period, you get a month for that 30-day period. It won't cost you anything. The other part was easy access via the website. Original project started in 2013. That MOU ended in 2017. with a second MOU adopted in 2017. October of 2017 is when we passed it here. That's when Manatee dropped out. Pasco continued, and it really went from a regional managed program as opposed, which was a committee, to Hart becoming the lead and the contract awarding agency. So the contract is not with Pasco County, it's with Hart. The second MOU ends in October, and that's why we're talking about this now. The costs have changed radically from the original MOU to where we are now. And when I say radically, there was supposedly no cost for this to happen, and that has changed a lot, as you're about to see. So our yearly costs are going to be for 2022, $44,595.70. But we don't know the out year cost because that is dependent on what Hart negotiates with the company and how they move forward on it. They also have a system warranty cost that's additional, and you can see it up there. And then for our supplies, there's another cost. Then you also have what they call tap cost. Every time someone uses the card in it and takes a percentage off of it to pay for the whole system overall, in addition to these other costs. So we also need another $69,000 approximately in cost. It was hard to get the response back to get the exact numbers from it because we have to work through Hart to get Hart to pay to get the quote, and then it comes back to us and it goes to, then we get it. So we have to work through Hart on all this stuff. And I'll get to some of that in a minute. So basically we have to come up with $51,000 a year, not counting monthly costs. To put this in perspective, just keep it on the other side, please. To keep it in perspective, that means I have to have this used more than 51,000 times for our system to break even. And since it kind of started, we've been giving out free rides for this. 125 people have used it since October. Slide down. So here's the issues. This static started in 2013 and still doesn't work for us. And we can't get it to work. Examples of the systems won't connect and so forth. I have talked to some of the other regions, not the majors, but the other participants. One is not even using it and has no plans to use it for a while. And the other one has can't get it to work either. Multiple program managers at Hart. The other one just quit and moved on to somewhere else. This will be like the 7th one or 6th one. I lost count of what manager, but the problem is they're shifting priorities. As you will know, Hart has had issues getting a CEO and some other things going on. The biggest issue I've got is outward, it's a regional fare box, but when you talk to them internally, it's a Hart project. So Hart's priorities are coming first, and they're not really talking to us as a regional partner, as more of, yeah, we'll do what we need to do. You're going to get what we're going to give you. And they're not meeting our requests. We still have a keyboard that's still supposedly under warranty. We have to go buy our own keyboard. We can't get a keyboard for our point of sale system. And this does not look favorably because we're getting to the point where all this stuff is going to be ours, where we're going to have to do it. And we're going to have to buy for parts to get it running. Maintenance requests are not fulfilled until Hart issues the request, which means that, let's say I need to get this, our new buses, I need to get it on our new buses. Well, I will fill out a report, a request, send it to Hart, and then Hart will get what's in it, and in it will get back for Hart, and it comes to me, then I go to procurement for the PO to Hart. The PO goes to Hart, who will then issue a PO to Init. That's my understanding of how it goes. So we can't go directly to the contractor because we don't have a contract with the contractor. Our memorandum of agreement is with Hart. Slide, please. So what I need to do, and this is what I want to tell the commissioners and MPO, is where do we want to go from now? Do you want to continue with the Flamingo Fair, or do you want to procure our own system? I will say that when Manatee dropped out, within a year, they had their own system in place that has been running successfully since then. They use a fee, and I'm not sure the whole system. I mean, I'll get with Manatee before this the MPO meeting in a month, but I will get with them and ask them, you know, how much is the fee and so forth. My understanding that fee is like 5%, so like on $1, it's like a nickel. So, and that nickel is charged to the customers, but they get everything that the fare box does, except it's through the cell phones. even the, everyone always calls them the Obama phone, but the government issued phones still can use that system and work very well? Or do they want to pursue another option moving forward? My recommendation is it's time to move off of Flamingo Fairs and to move into something that's focused on Pasco's needs and the citizens of Pasco's needs, moving from there. Now, any questions? That's all I got. Well, now I'll do my update. We'll right into that. Excuse me. We're currently got EcoLane is up and running. With the new logo fix, you'll start seeing now some of the customer service stuff to include the application, enrolled application. I'm hoping and praying that we can get everything done so that when we do the next one, I'll have a QR code to give to every commissioner and they can go right and see what's going on their phones right then and there. That's my goal. And that's my story and I'm sticking to it, so to speak. So we are working towards that way. The other thing we're doing is we're still trying to get the our route study done, route expansion and contraction study. It's still in the legal process of the procurement process, legal stage of the procurement process, to put it properly. We're working to get that done quickly, but we're closely running up to a hard stop in that if we don't get it out soon, we're not going to make our budget cycle next year. We need to have this budget cycle next year because if you didn't know about the Moffitt Center, the Moffitt Cancer Center that's being put out on 50, I'm sorry, Suncoast and Ridge. I'll get it right one of these years. I keep saying 52, but it's on Suncoast and there. We need to start planning for that now because that is probably 2 to 3 years before they finish the first building, which in transit terms and transportation terms is like yesterday, is like tomorrow. If you know, y'all understand what I'm talking about there. We're busy. Transportation system is there. One last thing I will talk about is ARP. I am in the discussions with Hart and PSTA about the split of ARP, and it's a $9 million difference between the two of us. So we're still working on that one. Other than that, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Okay, that leads us to other business. Any members have any other business they'd like to bring up?
I do have one. It's I talked to Carl briefly, but I'll make it official. I'm not really liking the month between because the next MPO meeting is 1 month from now. I really think we can do something to move it closer to that because of momentum. You know, you do the presentation, then the MPO. I understand the issues, but I would like that to be looked at for the future because we're about getting ready to do the next one. And whether we do it where our whatever Monday of the month it is moves to closer to that. But I do think that is something that is important because of the next time we talk about this stuff is a month from now. And I know there's some things that like the TIP program that's going to be presented next month. Well, we really don't have a really good aspect on it, but they're going to vote on it, I believe, at that time. Is that correct? And so I know this was brought up at the TAC meeting. I really think, though, that is something we do need to look at about moving that forward to be a little closer.
Let's talk signalization study since we now have new staff members on board on 52 and Adair. We are still asking for MPO's assistance on Adair and 52 in that general area for signalization studies to be done.
It's still on my list. I haven't forgotten about you. I just haven't had a minute to sit down and we've been kind of going through and getting everybody in, but it's on my list.
All right. So I would also like to invite you all to come over, or I can send you the information still about the number of developments and the number of approvals that are happening in that area, even with the 52 realignment. When it transitions to State Road 52 or to County Road 52, you're still going to have some traffic issues, especially around the school area in general. And my commission won't accept. They're going to get back with me as an answer. So if I can get 6 months, 9 months, some type of a timeline, if you can get back with me, please.
Really quick, Todd, I just wanted to chime in on the multi-use path on Chansey. So I don't think the developers are going to put that in, but
Look like it.
there are alternatives. We can do a TA application. There's one alternative, but I think it's going to be a pretty big project. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, which TAs usually, you don't do really big projects on TAs because you don't get that much money, you don't get that much length. Another route we can go is put in an SU application and actually make it a path, and then you can do a bigger project. So that's something, if you want to meet with us, we can kind of review. You can do it as a city, you can put it in, and then we can go from there. And then MPO can kind of guide you on that process, because I think that's one of the ideas that we're kind of working on as MPO, is how to help the cities, because that's part of what we do. We're supposed to be helping the cities and the county, but we're supposed to be helping everybody, and how to go down these roads to access these funds to get things done when sometimes they're not, they didn't get done in a certain process. So that could be one of your ways to get that path you want funded. So just wanted to say that you're not out of the game yet. You just have to go down another route.
Yeah, it retroactively will present some challenges along that segment. You've probably seen there's very deep and wide swells. And then from the edge of that swell goes into a raised buffer with landscaping. So to retroactively place a trail in there is going to be difficult, but at the same time, and I think you guys have our approved multipurpose trail plan that was adopted by our city council, and we really want to make those connections to the future trail on 301 down to 56.
Is the city lap certified?
No, we're not.
Okay, so therein lies something that maybe the MPO can help the cities with. Because in order to get the TA funding, you either have to be lap certified in order to get that funding, or you could reach out to DOT to do that project on behalf of the cities. But it may be, it may be something the MPO might want to coordinate with the cities in terms of helping them get lap certification, because it positions them for TA funding. Now, I don't know if there is a federal requirement when you get federal funding, if you have to be lap certified. There is a whole rigorous amount of criteria that you have to comply with, whether it's disadvantaged businesses or whatever. So as you're helping them, you may want to have these conversations about what is necessary for them to get lap certified and to get them support to be able to do that, because it positions them in a better way.
Well, I know, I mean, I've talked to Newport Richie, and now they're in the process of trying to figure out how do they do that. It's a process, because I think the conversations haven't come up to where, oh, maybe we should do that, because now the conversations are coming to the front burner.
If that's going to come, then, and you want to compute, apply for TA funds, having that lap certification would be beneficial to the cities.
I've heard that before, yeah.
And then you can,
We don't have an engineer.
I don't think you have an engineer on staff, and that's the same thing that Newport Richie was saying. Well, is it time now to hire that full-time engineer? So, I mean, other than that, I mean, it's not, we can always, make the request to FDOT to lap, or the county, which the county can't because they have too much going on.
We're not in a position to do.
I don't think you can, right?
Well, no, lap is different. The easiest thing to do if the cities want TA funding is to get lap certification. Now, that said, we're still partnering with the cities we're partnering with Dade City to do Morningside Drive, but that's a little bit different. We've got an interlocal agreement to do that, and they have a different pot of funds that they're using. We're also partnering with Zephyr Hills to do County Road 54, and we're both coming to the table with money. We're partnering with the city of Newport Richie to do some improvements on the bridge. We're going to reconstruct the bridge, and we're going to include their utilities improvements. So there's ways for us to do it statutorily through interlocal agreements, depending on the funding source. But if you're going to drive down the road and you're going to look at TA funds, then it would be helpful if the cities were able to to get that certification to do that.
Okay.
I have one more thing for Jensen. Be prepared when a certain commissioner and MPO board member sees the change in the roundabout construction, and might want to go ahead and start sending me a couple of days and times for meeting.
I hear you on that one, Melanie, but those roundabouts are funded for construction in 23 and 26. So those were incorrect
know.
on the priority list.
I know.
But I hear you. I hear you.
I'm sending it with love, Lovey.
And on the other business meetings, Jensen's going to provide a FDOT update in the next category.
Okay, so really quickly, I know that I've heard concerns about a couple projects in Pasco County, so I wanted to give updates periodically to the committees on these. One is the Overpass Road interchange with I-75, and the other is the State Road 56 I-75 diverging Diamond interchange. So I'm going to give you a couple updates on those right now, and I will start with Overpass Road at I-75. Project completion is going fairly well. The expected completion date of this project should be by the end of 2022 or early into calendar year 2023. This is obviously bearing any extreme weather or any unforeseen circumstances that may come up in that time frame. But just about 2 years from now, we should have completion on that intersection. Overpass Road has been closed for just about 3 months now, with that detour coming down either to 54 or going up to 52. The reopening of one lane in each direction is scheduled for next February of 2022. New alignments of McKendree Road and Blair Drive have been completed. These are a couple local roadways that are around that interchange. I-75 traffic has been shifted to provide room for the bridge work in the median. So you'll see some slight lane shifts going north and southbound on 75 in that area. With the diversions occurring later on this year as we go vertical with some of the bridge pylons, and then we actually go to constructing the actual bridge across the roadway. There will be intermittent lane closures on Boyette and Old Pasco roads as work commences on these roadways later on this year. Withlacoochee River Electric Company has begun work on the relocation of one of their major high voltage electric lines in the area. And then some current work for project-wide includes grading operations that you may have noticed, obviously, from traveling on I-75. There's drainage installation going on right now. The bridge foundations are in, and that work is ongoing. And then some wall work for some barrier walls in the area are ongoing. So that's everything that I have from our project management team and construction teams on that one. If there's anything else in the next few months, I will obviously bring that directly back to you guys to give you an update. But with that one, I will go ahead and move over to the diverging diamond interchange with 56 and 75. This one obviously has been a little bit crazy over the past year or so, and I know I've gotten a lot of questions from you all on this. This response I have is directly from Secretary Gwynn from District 7. So regarding some of the traffic congestion and construction pace of the DDI at State Road 56 and I-75, last year we put the contractor on notice that they were not adhering to their approved schedule, that we expected them to address and expand their resource commitment to the project, and to submit a plan to demonstrate a commitment to finish the project within the allowable contract time. Milestones have been set to ensure sufficient progress is being made to achieve this goal. Should the contractor not meet the milestones, they could be defaulted, which may result in termination of their contract and having another contractor complete the remainder of the work. Our hope is that the contractor is able to meet their schedule, as a default would also result in delays to the project while another contractor is being obtained. Prior to construction and continuing daily, our traffic operations staff monitor traffic flow along the State Road 56 corridor and adjust the signals remotely to help traffic move as efficiently as possible through this area. Additional cameras have been added to allow more intersections to be viewed and coordinated as we work to manage the increasingly challenging traffic demands of a lot of the residential and business growth in Wesley Chapel. We are monitoring the progress of the contractor daily and are encouraging means to increase work efficiently. This is a very important corridor in Pasco County, and efforts will continue to guide the contractor to complete the project as quickly as possible. We appreciate your patience, as always, as we work through some of these construction challenges.
Just your moment, Jensen.
If you have any questions, I will entertain those.
Just to let you know, Jensen, that's a very big mirror clipping area for us, and it's probably about, we're losing money because the narrowness of the roads, just to give you a heads up.
Okay, thanks for that comment, Kurt.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do about it. The drivers are being careful, but the drivers really don't like that right now. So any dates that you can give us, the drivers will be cheering it. When you actually do say it's complete, I think they're going to throw a party in PCPT. And if I could say, I forgot to mention that Jensen mentioned electric. PCPT is going for a low no grant next year. We're really going to try hard to be able to submit. And just wanted to give you a heads up on that. I'll be taking some meetings with probably Duke, working through Tom from the CAC. He knows somebody over there to help connect me. So we'll be looking at something like that. We're looking right now initially the 19 corridor, but I can see it expand down to 54 and the 301 corridor.
Thank you. Any other comments? Anyone? Anybody online? With that, meeting adjourned. Thank you, Carl and staff, for all your work. It's a big agenda.
Big agenda.
Normally the June one is the one that's the long one, because it has all the sheds and all the and everything.